Right now, you are conscious. You see colors, hear sounds, feel textures. You have thoughts, emotions, memories. There is something it is like to be you, a subjective inner world that nobody else can access. But why? Your brain is made of atoms, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. Atoms aren't conscious. They don't feel anything. They don't see red or taste coffee or experience joy. Yet somehow, when you arrange 86 billion neurons in the right configuration, consciousness emerges. Subjective experience appears. The lights turn on. This is the hard problem of consciousness. Not how the brain processes information. That's the easy problem. But why processing information feels like something. Why there's an inner experience at all. Philosophers have debated this for centuries. Neuroscientists map the brain, but can't explain the feeling. Physicists study matter, but consciousness remains elusive. Some say it's an illusion. Others say it's fundamental to the universe. This is the deepest mystery of existence. Why are you conscious? And what does that even mean? Consciousness is the most familiar and most mysterious aspect of existence. You experience it every waking moment, yet you can't see it, measure it, or fully explain it. It's the gap between the physical brain and the subjective mind, between neurons firing and the sensation of red, between information processing and the feeling of being you. Philosopher David Chalmers coined the term hard problem of consciousness in 1995. He distinguished it from the easy problems, explaining how the brain discriminates, integrates information, controls behavior, reports internal states, and focuses attention. These are hard in practice but solvable in principle using neuroscience and cognitive science. The hard problem is different, explaining why any physical state is conscious rather than non-conscious, why there is something it is like for a subject in conscious experience. Even after we explain every function, dynamic, and structure of the brain, we can still meaningfully ask, why is it conscious? This suggests consciousness requires more than standard scientific explanations. It marks, perhaps, the limits of what science can explain. Or it demands a radical rethinking of reality itself. What makes it hard? Consider vision. Light enters your eye, hits photoreceptors in the retina, generates electrical signals that travel through the optic nerve to the visual cortex. Neurons fire in patterns. The brain processes edges, colors, motion, depth. All of this can be explained mechanistically. But none of it explains why you see red, why red looks the way it does to you, why there's an inner visual experience, not just information processing. This subjective quality, what philosophers call qualia, is what makes consciousness hard. Qualia are the intrinsic, phenomenal properties of experience, the redness of red, the painfulness of pain, the sweetness of sugar. They seem irreducible. You can't describe red to someone who's never seen color. You can't fully convey pain to someone who's never felt it. Qualia are private, immediate, and undeniable. Recent research suggests the hard problem arises from deep intuitive biases in human psychology, essentialism, the belief that things have hidden essences, and dualism, the intuition that mind and body are fundamentally different. These biases make it feel like consciousness is special and irreducible, even if it's not. But whether the hard problem is ontological, consciousness really is special, or psychological, we're biased to think it's special, remains debated. The materialist response, consciousness is physical. Most neuroscientists and many philosophers are physicalists. They believe consciousness is entirely physical, a product of brain activity. There's no separate mental substance, no soul, just neurons, synapses, and electrochemical signals. When you see red, specific neurons in your visual cortex fire. When you feel pain, Pain receptors send signals to your brain. Consciousness is what the brain does. But this doesn't solve the hard problem. It just pushes it back. Why does neural firing produce the experience of red? Why doesn't it happen in the dark, with no subjective experience at all? Philosopher Joseph Levine called this the explanatory gap, the gap between physical descriptions and phenomenal experience. Even if consciousness correlates perfectly with neural activity, correlation isn't explanation. Knowing which neurons fire when you see red doesn't tell you why firing neurons feel like anything. Physicalists offer several strategies. Eliminativism denies qualia exist. Consciousness is an illusion or a confused concept. There's nothing to explain beyond behavior and information processing. This view is deeply counterintuitive. You can doubt almost anything except that you're conscious right now. As Descartes said, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. Consciousness is the one thing you can't be wrong about. Functionalism says consciousness is defined by its functional role, what it does, not what it's made of. If a system processes information in the right way, integrating, reporting, guiding behavior, it's conscious, regardless of substrate. This means, in principle, a computer could be conscious. But critics argue functionalism ignores qualia. A system could behave consciously without feeling anything. This is the zombie thought experiment. Imagine a being physically identical to you, but with no inner experience. It acts like you, talks like you, but the lights are off inside. Is this possible? If yes, functionalism fails. Consciousness is more than function. If no, zombies are logically impossible, and consciousness must be a necessary consequence of certain physical structures. Reductionism claims we'll eventually explain consciousness by reducing it to neural mechanisms. We just don't understand the brain well enough yet. Once we map the complete connectome, understand neural dynamics, and decode information processing, consciousness will be explained. The hard problem will dissolve. This is the bet most neuroscientists make. But many philosophers remain skeptical. The explanatory gap might not be closable by accumulating more neural data. Neural correlates and theories. Neuroscience has identified neural correlates of consciousness, NCC, specific brain activity associated with conscious experience. For example, activity in the posterior cortex, visual, auditory, somatosensory areas, correlates with conscious perception. Damage to these areas causes loss of awareness in corresponding modalities. But finding correlates isn't the same as explaining why they produce experience. Several major theories attempt to bridge the gap. Integrated Information Theory, IIT, developed by Giulio Tononi, proposes that consciousness corresponds to the capacity of a system to integrate information. IIT quantifies this with a parameter called phi, F. Higher F means more consciousness. A system is conscious if it has differentiated and integrated information. The theory predicts consciousness arises in the thalamocortical system of the brain, where extensive feedback loops create high F. IIT treats consciousness as a continuous variable, not all or nothing. Even simple systems with some integration have low-level consciousness. A thermostat has minimal F. A brain has maximal F. IIT makes testable predictions. During deep sleep, the brain's integrated information decreases, predicting lower consciousness, which matches subjective reports of reduced or absent dreams. In split-brain patients, where the corpus callosum is severed, IIT predicts two separate consciousness centers might form, which some behavioral evidence supports. IIT also claims to assess artificial and animal consciousness by measuring F, though actually calculating F for complex systems remains computationally difficult. Critics argue IIT doesn't solve the hard problem. It identifies which systems are conscious, but doesn't explain why integrated information feels like something. Why should F produce qualia? The theory correlates structure with consciousness, but doesn't bridge the explanatory gap. Global Workspace Theory, GWT, suggests consciousness arises when information is broadcast globally across the brain. Unconscious processing happens in specialized modules: vision, language, memory. When information enters the global workspace, a network involving prefrontal and parietal cortices, it becomes conscious and accessible to multiple systems. GWT explains access consciousness, information you can report and use, but not phenomenal consciousness, what it feels like. It tells us when information becomes conscious, not why it has a subjective quality. Recurrent processing theory, RPT, proposes consciousness emerges from local recurrent processing, feedback loops within sensory cortices. Feed-forward activity alone, stimulus, sensory cortex, isn't enough. Feedback from higher to lower areas creates awareness. RPT identifies the visual awareness negativity, VAN, a neural signature at 200 nanometers after stimulus, as a marker of conscious perception. But again, this identifies timing and location, not the essence of experience. All these theories describe correlates, mechanisms, and information processing. None fully explain qualia. The hard problem remains hard. Panpsychism. Consciousness is fundamental. Frustrated by the explanatory gap, some philosophers embrace panpsychism, the idea that consciousness is a fundamental feature of the universe, present even in elementary particles. Electrons, quarks, photons, all have some form of primitive experience or proto-consciousness. Complex consciousness, like ours, emerges when simple conscious entities combine. Panpsychism solves the hard problem by denying it arises. Consciousness doesn't emerge from non-conscious matter. It's already there, woven into matter itself. Even David Chalmers, who formulated the hard problem, has leaned toward panpsychism, suggesting particles might possess awareness. Panpsychism claims this approach avoids both the hard problem and the combination problem, how simple consciousness combines into complex consciousness, that still challenges the view. But panpsychism faces serious objections. First, there's no evidence particles are conscious. Consciousness seems tied to complex information processing, not fundamental particles. Second, the combination problem. Even if electrons are conscious, how do billions of electron consciousnesses combine into your unified consciousness? Why don't you experience a crowd of micro-minds, but one unified self? This seems as hard as the original problem. Idealism and cosmopsychism go further, claiming consciousness is the fundamental substance of the universe, and matter emerges from mind, not vice versa. Objective idealism suggests the universe is mental, and physical reality is a construction of consciousness. This sidesteps the hard problem entirely. There's no need to explain how matter produces mind if mind is primary. But it raises new questions. Whose mind? How does shared physical reality arise from subjective experience? Idealism has ancient roots, Plato, Berkeley, but struggles to explain the objective, law-governed nature of the physical world. The explanatory gap, Physicalism versus Panpsychism. Recent philosophical work argues both Physicalism and Panpsychism face explanatory gaps. Physicalism can't explain how physical processes produce phenomenal experience. Panpsychism can't explain how microconsciousness combines into macroconsciousness, or how consciousness produces the structured physical world. Both theories, it seems, leave something unexplained. This suggests the hard problem might be genuinely intractable, or that we need a radically new framework. Quantum consciousness? Some theorists propose consciousness involves quantum mechanics. Physicist Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff's orchestrated objective reduction, OR theory, suggests consciousness arises from quantum processes in microtubules within neurons. Quantum superpositions collapse, reduce, in a process governed by quantum gravity, producing moments of conscious experience. This is highly speculative and lacks strong empirical support. Most neuroscientists reject it, arguing the brain is too warm and noisy for quantum coherence. But the theory persists because it offers a potential mechanism for non-computable consciousness, something beyond classical information processing. Is consciousness an illusion? Philosopher Daniel Dennett argues, the hard problem is a conceptual confusion. Consciousness isn't a mysterious inner theater. It's a collection of cognitive processes. When we introspect, we construct narratives about our mental states, but there's no Cartesian theater where experiences are displayed. Qualia don't exist as intrinsic properties. They're ways we categorize and report sensory processing. The hard problem dissolves when we stop assuming consciousness is something over and above brain function. Critics reply that Dennett denies the obvious. Pain really hurts. Red really looks red. These aren't just reports or categories. They're immediate, undeniable experiences. Dennett might explain why we believe in qualia, but that doesn't explain qualia themselves. The meta-problem. Why do we think there's a hard problem? Chalmers himself has proposed the meta-problem. Even if the hard problem is unsolvable, we can ask why we think there's a hard problem. Why do humans intuitively believe consciousness is mysterious and irreducible? This is a functional question, explainable by neuroscience and psychology. Perhaps evolution wired us to perceive consciousness as special. Perhaps introspection creates an illusion of irreducibility. Solving the meta-problem might not solve the hard problem, but it could clarify why the problem feels hard. Living with the hard problem. After 50 years of intense research and debate, the hard problem remains. We have better correlates, better theories, better experiments, but no consensus on why consciousness exists. Some scientists believe the answer is decades away. Others think it's centuries away or impossible. A few think the question is confused, but the mystery doesn't diminish the reality. You are conscious. You experience the world. That fact is undeniable, even if unexplained, and it shapes everything. Consciousness is why life matters, why joy is good and pain is bad, why beauty moves us and love binds us. If we were unconscious automata, philosophical zombies, nothing would matter. There'd be no one home to care. Consciousness is also deeply personal. Your experience is yours alone. No one else can feel your pain, see your colors, or think your thoughts. This creates the self, the sense of being a unique subject in a shared world. It's why identity matters, why death frightens us, why we cherish moments of awareness. Perhaps the hard problem is unsolvable because consciousness is fundamental, not explainable in terms of anything more basic. Perhaps it's solvable but requires new physics, new mathematics, new concepts we haven't imagined. Or perhaps it's a cognitive illusion, a trick of introspection that makes the obvious seem mysterious. Whatever the answer, the question itself is profound. Why are you conscious? Why is there something it is like to be you? This is the hard problem, and until we solve it, if we ever do, consciousness remains the deepest mystery of existence.